Hey everybody. So this will be a low effort video even for me. Uh, and I have very little to say, but it's often the videos where I have very little to say that I end up rambling on for 20 minutes. But for everybody who's written in with condolences and advice and such, thank you. Thank you. I probably won't be taking anybody's advice on romantic relationships right now. My intention is just to like pack that away for a bit and not focus on that. It's just I mean, even if I met like the perfect person right now, the idea of just starting again from zero is unappealing. It and I'm there is a part of my personality which is very flirty and which really enjoys the early stages of a new relationship. And that part of my personality just seems distant and like overtaxed and not not volunteering for new duty right now. So I'm going to put that off. Um, there's a full, not full, but a more detailed account on Patreon. It's not behind the paywall of what happened to me at work last night. Basically, I think I just went back to work too early after COVID, and last night I, as they say, hit the wall. Um, I didn't tell anybody I was feeling sick or that I wasn't feeling sick. Like, I wasn't nauseous or anything. It was just, I didn't tell anybody that I was having difficulty, but multiple people looked at me and said, "Are you okay?" And then I basically collapsed into this chair and started getting really cold indoors. And I was fine when I came in. I wasn't fine, in the totality of my being, but I was fine in terms of not feeling cold when I came in from the cold. But then sitting there in a warm room, I started getting colder and colder, and I put on gloves and I put on this hat and I just sort of huddled in on myself, and then tears started streaming down my face, and then I kind of lost consciousness for a while, and my supervisor woke me up and asked me if I wanted to go home, and I said I just needed to sit here for a bit, and then he roused me a bit later and told me I was going home. So I went home. I worked 5 hours yesterday instead of the usual. I was only scheduled for 8, so I only missed 3, but I'm not going in today. So I could transfer. I mean, I don't ski, so I can't transfer to any department that would require me to ski. But any department that I could transfer to would be much, much easier work. But I wouldn't know the people and I would feel like a failure, like washing out of snowmaking, which I understand is irrational. Social pressure, personal image. These shouldn't. I mean, whatever department I transfer to, the pay is going to be exactly the same. The person busting his ass out on the mountain at night in freezing cold, getting soaked, he gets paid the same as a dishwasher. He gets paid the same as a person running a cash register down in the village. There's no additional pay for the extra taxation on the body. It's a cult. It is a cult, but I've been indoctrinated. I'm in the cult of snowmaking, and I don't want to wash out. So again, to everybody, particularly for the well wishes, thank you. And for all the advice, I know it is well meant. And if I'm not following it, it's not a rejection of your intent to help. It's just me not taking your advice. And Mike, I absolutely want to see your hometown in Mexico. And it is my full intention to spend some time there. And hopefully, with you to be my guide and introduction to the local scene and the town that you're in now, which I realize is not the same place. But I've watched multiple videos about both places and they just seem magical. So yeah, anxious to go there. I was hoping to take a lady there rather than go there and find a lady. Um, but whatever. I, this is going to seem like a total non sequitur, but it's not. I absolutely love dogs. I miss having a dog so much. But right now, Getting a dog it's in the same category as, transferring out of snowmaking to some easier job. It's like giving up. It's like, okay, as the insults would say, I'm going to take the dog pill. I'm just going to be a dog junkie and give up on life, the full spectrum life that is really what, you know, everything I know about human psychology says I should secure for myself if I want to live a long, healthy, happy life. And this is turning into one of those videos that's got to be behind the paywall. Oh, maybe not. Vale is going to pay for some 6 sessions with a counselor. I'm going to do it. It's already arranged. It's just, it doesn't happen immediately. It starts in December. It's crazy. You can see behind me. I'm not on the rock today because it's too windy out there and it's cold, and it wouldn't be good for recording, and it wouldn't be good for my health, although I really enjoy the sunlight. My younger roommate, they're both younger than me, but one's like 3 years younger and the other is half my age. The one who's half my age, he's got COVID. And he just sits in our bunkhouse all day. I can't stand that place. Given my current physical conditions, it's right around freezing. It's like 32 degrees out here. This is probably not the ideal condition for me to sit and recover, but I cannot stand sitting in that bunkhouse. I don't know how he does it. Day after day, barely going out. And he's not, he's a snowmaker. He's not a couch potato. I think it's because he lived in his car for a while before coming to the bunkhouse. So for him, the bunkhouse is, it's objectively shitty, but it's a step up from living in your car. So there are Sea Realm listeners, long time, like friends of the Sea Realm, longtime supporters who are nearby. An hour away, hour and a half, 2 hours. I've heard from 3 of them who all say they'd like to come and visit. One, we've actually got a date penciled in. It's weird because I'm not in a position to entertain guests, really, not in my accommodation, but this is a beautiful place to hang out. Do I edit out the coughs? I don't really feel like doing much editing. Anyway. But anyway, the West Coast is just, the Sea Realm listenership is much, much diminished since the early days. But still, I have a lot of longtime contacts who know me from the podcast, many of whom I've met. So it's not, what's the word? Parasocial anymore. But yeah, they're all out here on the West Coast. There's a cluster in the East Coast, several in New York City. Where I am out in the middle of the country, that's, normally, well, not normally, when I'm in Arkansas or, Tennessee or North Carolina, it's very unlikely that I'm going to run into a Sea Realm listener. In California or in New York City, it's quite likely. Which is kind of fun, but also just, it's the whole parasocial thing is weird because there's this idea, this sort of assumption, and even I make it, and I know that it's not true, that if somebody has, like, if they're well known for something, that they've got their shit together, like, that paying the rent is not an issue. And we're in this weird economic, technological, social, vortex where that just doesn't hold. It's not true. I forget the term for it, but there's a term for a YouTuber who is too famous to work a normal job, but too poor not to. Like YouTubers who were working in fast food restaurants and got fired because their fans kept coming in and disrupting things. I'm not there. That's not my level. I'm fortunately, given my age and what I talk about, the people who know me are not fans. They're people who just know me. and they tend to be older. Boy, I hadn't planned to talk about that at all. Look at this blue sky behind me. Isn't this gorgeous? This is a gorgeous place, which is why it's full of rich people and poor people who, not poor, working class. Yeah, poor, actually. People who can't afford to live here. Taco Bell, pays $20 an hour, which is what I make, for working up on the mountain doing much more challenging work. But I couldn't be here without the company housing, and I don't think Taco Bell has company housing in Kings Beach. And nobody working at Taco Bell speaks fluent English. Which is ironic because Taco Bell is thoroughly Americanized, homogenized. It's sort of a facsimile or a parody of Mexican food. And I don't know that the people working there are Mexican. They might well be from places south of Mexico, but like the manager, her English is really bad. Like I simply cannot understand what she's saying, although I can tell she's trying to speak English. And it's typically her underlings to whom she speaks in Spanish, who talk to me in still not very good English. And just right over there, like a block that way, is the 7-Eleven, where if I could walk over there right now, and I'm not going to show them to you because I don't want to go and, just point a camera at them, but there's a bunch of Latino guys just sitting out front, all bundled up, waiting to, I don't know if they're waiting to be picked up to take them to a job. I don't think so. I think they're day laborers just waiting for somebody to come along and offer them a small amount of money to do some work. But they're just sitting there while, Teslas and BMWs and Mercedes drive by. I'm not any sort of Marxist or communist or leftist revolutionary, but yeah, capitalism, our variety of it, it's in a bad phase right now. Unless, of course, you're an accelerationist and a long-termist. And I was reading about long-termism some more. And maybe you don't know what the hell I'm talking about because you don't listen to the Zero and Vault podcast. But I've talked to Jim, your ad attacker from the Attack Ads podcast recently, about long-termism. Some Blue Triber wrote a piece about how Elon Musk and Jack Dorsey are both long-termists in that, they're only interested in advancing technology, getting humanity off the planet, and basically creating a future where there are a lot more human and artificially intelligent but still sentient minds in the solar system, in the future. Whereas if we don't get off the planet, there will be far less consciousness, far less humanity. I know for you antinatalists and other nihilists, that's a good thing. But for them, that's a bad thing. And in their perspective, the well-being of particular individual human beings on the planet right now is pretty irrelevant given the stakes of the scale of the stakes. And that we really need to get off the planet now and start utilizing resources elsewhere. And I agree with the goal, but at the same time, I think that people who actually exist and actually experience the world, that their needs take precedence over potential people. And I don't necessarily have an argument for it. It's almost axiomatic for me that real people are more important, really existing people are more important than potential people, regardless of how many of them there are, regardless of how great their lives might be, if we really get things together. But it's not a lack of technology that creates this disparity. It is the technology that creates the economic disparity and the disparity of experience and opportunity. And I can't complain about lack of opportunity. I mean, there are people that I went to high school with who are doing very well. They made better choices than I did in terms of, securing a career, creating a career for themselves, which they then stuck with. I'm going to post a link to the Slate Star Codex Reddit, subreddit, about long-termism, because somebody asked a question, and the top comment is from Scott Alexander himself, and it's worth reading. So if you have any any topic suggestions, in that area. Um, I'm really sick of talking about myself and my woes. So let's get some content going. And yeah, let's do that. Talk to you soon.